I was standing in our bedroom, folding a yellow sundress into my suitcase, when my boyfriend walked in and said 4 words that shattered everything I thought I knew about us. "I can't go anymore." Just like that. Casual. Like he was canceling a dentist appointment, not our dream vacation to Greece. The reason? His ex-girlfriend's birthday party. Yes, you heard that right. His ex. So I did something that would change both our lives forever. I took someone else on that flight instead. And if you've ever been betrayed by someone you trusted with your whole heart, hit that like button right now, because you're going to want to see how this ends. Trust me, karma is about to serve the coldest dish you've ever witnessed. And subscribe, because this story is going to show you exactly what happens when a man chooses the wrong woman. My name is Sienna, and 3 days before this moment, I thought I had it all figured out. I'm 28, I work in marketing, and I'd been with Rhett for 3 years. 3 whole years of building a life together, of inside jokes and Sunday morning pancakes and talks about forever. This Greece trip wasn't just a vacation. We'd been planning it for 6 months. I had spreadsheets. I had restaurant reservations. I had a Pinterest board with 200 pins of whitewashed buildings and sunset views. This was supposed to be our trip. The one where we'd sit on some romantic terrace overlooking the Aegean Sea and talk about our future, engagement, marriage, the whole beautiful future I'd been dreaming about since the day he told me he loved me. But standing there with that sundress in my hands, watching him avoid my eyes, I felt something crack inside my chest. "You're joking, right?" I heard myself say, even though I already knew he wasn't. My voice sounded strange, like it was coming from underwater. "Tell me you're joking, Rhett." He ran his hand through his hair, that thing he does when he's uncomfortable, and shook his head. "Giselle's going through a really tough time right now. It's just a birthday party, babe. You understand, right?" And there it was, Giselle, his ex-girlfriend, the woman he'd dated before me, the one he swore was just ancient history, the one who'd been creeping back into our lives for the past 6 months after they reconnected at a mutual friend's wedding. I'd had this sick feeling in my gut about her for weeks now, maybe months if I'm being honest with myself. The way his face would light up when her name appeared on his phone, the way he'd laugh at her texts, that private little smile like they shared some secret I wasn't part of, the way he'd started staying late at the office on nights I knew she was hosting gallery events. She owns an art gallery downtown, all sophisticated and cultured and everything I suddenly felt like I wasn't. But every time I brought it up, every time I tried to voice this growing anxiety eating away at me, Rhett would look at me with those disappointed eyes and say I was being dramatic, insecure, jealous. He'd make me feel guilty for having feelings, like I was the problem in our relationship. "You're choosing your ex over me?" The words came out sharper than I intended, but my hands were shaking. The sundress fell onto the bed. "Over our trip?" "Over us." He sighed, like I was exhausting him. "This is exactly why we have problems, Sienna. You're so insecure about Giselle when there's absolutely nothing going on. It's a birthday party. I'll be back in 1 night. We can reschedule Greece?" Reschedule. Like those non-refundable tickets that cost over $4,000 were just grocery shopping we could do next week. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay there in the darkness next to Rhett, listening to him breathe, and I felt like I was sleeping next to a stranger. Everything felt wrong. The air felt wrong. My own skin felt wrong. Around 2 in the morning, his phone lit up on the nightstand, and I watched the glow illuminate the ceiling. I shouldn't have looked, I know that. But something in me, some instinct I'd been ignoring for months, made me reach for it. The message preview was right there on the lock screen. Giselle. "Can't wait to see you at my party, baby." It's been too long since we had a night just us. And that little kissing emoji at the end, like a knife sliding between my ribs. My hands started trembling so violently I almost dropped the phone. Baby. She called him baby, and he was canceling our vacation, our future, our everything, to have a night just them. I scrolled up through their messages, and with each swipe, my world crumbled a little more. Months of texts, flirty good mornings, inside jokes I wasn't part of, plans made behind my back, coffee meetups he never mentioned. There were gaps, too, places where conversations had been deleted, and somehow that was worse than what I could see. What had he said that was so damning he had to erase it? My chest felt tight, like someone was squeezing my heart in their fist. When morning came, I was sitting at the kitchen table, his phone in front of me, my coffee untouched and cold. Rhett walked in looking exhausted, probably from whatever dreams he was having about his precious Giselle. "Who's baby to Giselle?" I asked, my voice eerily calm. I watched the color drain from his face. He went absolutely white, like I'd slapped him. "Are you seriously going through my phone now?" His voice rose immediately, that defensive anger of someone who's been caught. "That's a complete invasion of privacy, Sienna. What the hell?" Something in me snapped. "Invasion of privacy?" I was on my feet, and I didn't even remember standing up. "You've been emotionally cheating on me for half a year and you want to talk about privacy?" My voice cracked, tears burning behind my eyes, but I refused to let them fall. Not yet. Not for him. He tried to backtrack, scrambling. "We're just friends. You're completely blowing this out of proportion. Giselle is going through a divorce. She needs support." Support. That's what he was calling it. "Then why does she call you baby?" I demanded. "Why are you canceling our vacation, our plans, our future for her birthday party? Tell me, Rhett, make it make sense." He couldn't. He stood there opening and closing his mouth like a fish drowning in air, and then he said the one thing I'll never forgive him for. "Maybe if you were more understanding like Giselle, we wouldn't be in this mess." The slap happened before I even realized my hand was moving. It wasn't hard, but the sound echoed through our kitchen like a gunshot. We both froze, staring at each other, and I saw something shift in his eyes. Not remorse, anger. "I'm going to that party," he said, his voice cold and hard. "And when I get back, we're going to have a serious talk about your issues, your jealousy, your insecurity." He grabbed his keys and walked out, slamming the door so hard a picture frame fell off the wall and shattered. I stood there in the silence, surrounded by broken glass, and something crystallized inside me. This wasn't love. Maybe it never had been. I walked to the bedroom and stared at those packed suitcases, at the grease tickets pulled up on my laptop screen. 2 tickets, $4,000, 6 months of dreams, and suddenly I knew exactly what I was going to do. I picked up my phone with shaking hands and scrolled through my contacts until I found the name I was looking for. Dorian. My childhood best friend who'd moved to London 2 years ago for a photography job. We'd been inseparable growing up, the kind of friends who could go months without talking and pick up right where we left off. My finger hovered over his name for just a second before I pressed call. He answered on the 3rd ring, his voice thick with sleep because I'd forgotten about the time difference. "Sienna?" "What's wrong?" He knew immediately. That's the thing about real friends. They just know. "Dor, I need you," I said, and my voice broke on his nickname. "Are you free this week?" There was rustling on the other end, like he was sitting up. "Always. What happened?" And it all came spilling out. Rhett, Giselle, the messages, the canceled trip, the slap, the door slamming, everything. When I finished, there was a long pause, and then Dorian said something that changed everything. "Book me on the next flight back to the States. We're going to Greece, just like that. No hesitation, no questions about logistics or money or whether this was crazy." He was in, completely, totally in. "I have 2 tickets and $4,000 of non-refundable dreams," I told him through tears that were finally falling. "And I'm not wasting a single second of it on someone who chose his ex over me." The next 48 hours were a blur of decisive action. I blocked Rhett on everything: phone, social media, email, every digital connection we had, gone with a tap of my finger. Then I went through the apartment we shared, the one that was actually on my lease because his credit wasn't good enough when we moved in. Funny how I'd forgotten that detail. I packed every single thing that belonged to him into boxes. His clothes, his books, his stupid collection of vintage records he never actually listened to. I called a locksmith and had the locks changed. $200 and 30 minutes later, he couldn't get back in even if he tried. I felt powerful. For the first time in months, maybe years, I felt like myself again. Then I did something petty, and I'm not even sorry about it. I posted a story on Instagram. Just one photo, a single boarding pass to Athens with a simple caption. Greece. Sometimes the best revenge is living well, with a little airplane emoji. I knew Rhett would see it. I knew he'd be at Giselle's party, probably checking his phone between conversations, and he'd see that I wasn't sitting at home crying and waiting for him to come back. Within an hour, my phone started buzzing. Except it wasn't my phone anymore. Not really. I'd left it at the apartment, sitting on the kitchen counter next to a note that said, "You made your choice. I made mine." All I had was my Apple Watch, and I watched with grim satisfaction as notification after notification lit up the screen. Rhett calling, Rhett texting, Rhett panicking. I silenced every single one without reading them. The morning of the flight, Dorian met me at the airport. He'd flown in late the night before and stayed at a hotel near the terminal. When I saw him standing there with his camera bag and that familiar crooked smile, something in my chest loosened for the first time in days. "Ready for an adventure?" he asked, pulling me into a hug that smelled like his cologne and safety and everything Rhett had never been. I was wearing that yellow sundress, the one I'd been packing when my world fell apart. "More ready than I've ever been," I said, and I meant it. Greece was everything I'd dreamed it would be, but in ways I never expected. Dorian and I spent 5 days exploring Santorini, and for the first time in 3 years, I wasn't performing. I wasn't trying to be the perfect girlfriend, the understanding partner, the woman who made herself smaller so someone else could feel bigger. I was just Sienna. We watched sunsets from cliffside cafes, explored ancient ruins that had stood for thousands of years while my relationship crumbled in days, and ate food that actually tasted like something because I wasn't swallowing anxiety with every bite. Dorian took photos of me, real ones, where I was genuinely laughing. Not the carefully posed shots I used to beg Rhett to take, the ones where I had to ask 5 times before he'd put down his phone. These were candid, raw, true. On our 3rd night there, we were at a taverna overlooking the caldera, and Dorian had his arm casually around my shoulders as the sun melted into the sea. The waiter offered to take our photo, and I said yes without thinking. When I looked at it later, I barely recognized myself. My smile reached my eyes. My shoulders were relaxed. I looked free. I posted it with a simple caption. "Found paradise, found myself," with a Greek flag emoji. That was it. No long explanation, no vindictive message, just truth. Within minutes, the comments started flooding in. Friends I hadn't heard from in months, co-workers, even my aunt from Michigan. "You look so happy." "Good for you. This is your best look yet." But I knew the one person who mattered most was seeing it too. Because back home, Rhett's world was imploding in the most poetic way possible. I found out later from my best friend Monica, who couldn't resist calling to tell me everything. When Rhett returned to our apartment after Giselle's party, he found his key didn't work. He stood there for 10 minutes trying to get in before he noticed the boxes stacked outside the door. All his stuff, packed neatly with a note taped to the top, the same note I'd left on the counter. "You made your choice. I made mine." Monica said he called her 17 times that night. 17. He called my mother, my sister, every mutual friend we had. Nobody answered, because everybody knew what he'd done. Word travels fast in our circle, and I'd made sure the truth got out before his lies could. But here's where karma really showed up to do her job. That birthday party he'd canceled everything for, the one that was supposedly so important that he had to sacrifice our relationship, Rhett thought he was Giselle's special guest. He thought he was the reason she needed him there. He'd built up this entire fantasy in his head that maybe, just maybe, she wanted him back. That maybe canceling his vacation and choosing her party meant something. Reality hit him like a freight train. There were 30 people at that party. 30. He was just another guest, another face in the crowd, and the worst part, the part that Monica said made her actually laugh out loud when she heard it, was that Giselle introduced everyone to her new boyfriend that night. A wealthy art investor named Christopher who owns 3 galleries across Europe. Handsome, successful, everything Rhett pretended to be but wasn't. Monica said she heard from someone who was there that Rhett actually pulled Giselle aside, confused, asking what was happening. "I thought we had something," he apparently said. And Giselle, cold as ice, looked at him and said, "Rhett, you were fun to text when I was lonely after my divorce. But you left your girlfriend for a birthday party? That's honestly pathetic." She walked away and didn't speak to him again the entire night. Rhett left that party humiliated, and apparently the story spread through our friend group like wildfire. Monica told me that people were talking about it at every hangout, every dinner, every casual run-in at the grocery store. Did you hear what Rhett did? Canceled a trip to Greece for a birthday party where the girl had a whole boyfriend? Someone even asked him directly at a bar the following weekend, "Bro, you fumbled so bad. What were you thinking?" His reputation crumbled. The guy who everyone thought was so charming, so smooth, was suddenly the cautionary tale, the idiot who threw away something real for a fantasy that never existed. And me? I became the one who got away, the one who didn't wait around, the one who chose herself. I came back from Greece different, not because of Dorian, though his friendship reminded me what it felt like to be valued. We were still just friends, and that was perfect. I came back different because somewhere between the blue-domed churches and the taste of fresh baklava, I remembered who I was before Rhett, before I started editing myself, before I started apologizing for having feelings, before I made myself small enough to fit into his broken vision of love. I got my power back. Not from revenge, not from posting photos that I knew would hurt him, but from genuinely letting go. From realizing that his inability to see my worth said everything about him and nothing about me. 2 weeks after I got back, Rhett showed up at my apartment building. I don't know how he got in, probably talked his way past a neighbor who didn't know better. When I heard the knock, I knew it was him before I even looked through the peephole. I could have not answered. Part of me wanted to just let him stand there wondering, the way he'd left me wondering for months if I was crazy for feeling what I felt. But I opened the door because I needed to see if there was anything left in me that still cared. There wasn't. He looked terrible. Dark circles under his eyes, wrinkled shirt, hair unwashed. "Please, Sienna," he started immediately, words tumbling out desperate and rehearsed. "I'm so sorry. I was such an idiot. I love you. It was always you." Giselle meant nothing. I stood there in my doorway, arms crossed, and felt absolutely nothing. No anger, no sadness, not even satisfaction. Just emptiness where he used to live in my heart. "You don't love me, Rhett," I said quietly. "You love the idea of me. The woman who was always there, always understanding, always waiting for you to decide I was enough." He shook his head frantically. "That's not true. What happened with Giselle? It meant nothing. I'll do anything. Therapy, couples counseling, whatever you want." And that's when I realized the saddest truth of all. He still didn't get it. He thought this was about Giselle. He thought this was about one canceled trip, one party, one mistake he could apologize away. "This isn't about Giselle," I told him, and my voice was steady and strong. "This is about you choosing to gaslight me for months, making me feel crazy for trusting my gut, canceling our future without a second thought, and only wanting me back because she didn't want you." His face crumpled and he actually started crying. This man who never cried, not even when his dog died. "I'll do anything," he repeated. "The man I loved wouldn't have needed to lose me to figure this out," I said. Then I stepped back and closed the door, not a slam, just a soft, final click. I heard him standing there for a few minutes, then footsteps walking away. And that was it. 6 months have passed since that day, and my life looks completely different now. I'm sitting in my favorite coffee shop, the one with the big windows that let the afternoon light pour in, and I'm working on a project that actually excites me. Dorian's visiting from London this week. We've stayed close, talking almost every day, and he's become one of the most important people in my life. Not romantically, just genuinely. The way friendship is supposed to be when someone actually shows up for you. He just texted me that he's 5 minutes away, and I'm smiling at my phone in a way that feels light and easy. Last week, Rhett tried to add me on LinkedIn. LinkedIn, like we were business contacts who'd lost touch, not two people who'd built and destroyed a life together. I stared at the notification for about 5 seconds, then deleted it without a second thought. Dorian asked me about it when I mentioned it casually over video chat. "What did you do?" he wanted to know. "Nothing," I told him honestly. "He's not even a memory anymore. He's just someone I used to know." And that's the truth. Somewhere along the way, between Greece and now, between closing that door and opening new ones, Rhett stopped mattering. He became a chapter in my story, not the whole book. A guy at the table next to me just smiled. He's been here the past few Wednesdays, always orders a black coffee and a croissant, always reads actual physical books instead of staring at his phone. Today he's reading Hemingway. He has kind eyes. I smiled back, genuinely, openly, and then went back to my laptop. Not because I'm playing hard to get or following some dating strategy, but because I'm not looking for anyone right now. I found myself in Greece. I found my worth in those locked apartment doors and blocked phone numbers. I found my voice in that final conversation when I told Rhett exactly why he lost me. And honestly, that's enough. More than enough. It's everything. Here's what I learned through all of this, and I hope you hear me when I say this. When someone shows you who they are, believe them the first time. Don't wait for the second betrayal, the third excuse, the fourth apology that comes only after they've lost you. Don't make yourself smaller, quieter, more understanding, more patient, hoping that if you just love them hard enough, they'll finally see your value. You are not a backup plan. You are not a safety net while someone figures out if their ex wants them back. You are not a therapist, a doormat, or a second choice. You are the entire prize, the whole package, the one someone should feel grateful to have, not the one they cancel on for someone else's birthday party. And if someone can't see that, if someone makes you feel crazy for having standards, for trusting your gut, for asking to be treated with basic respect, let them go. Close that door. Change those locks. Take that trip with someone who actually values your time. Because the best revenge isn't making them jealous. It isn't posting perfect photos or proving you're fine without them. The best revenge is becoming so genuinely happy, so completely whole, that they become irrelevant. That's when you've truly won, not when they want you back, but when you don't care anymore if they do. If this story resonated with you, if you've ever had to walk away from someone who didn't value you, share this with someone who needs to hear it today. Hit that subscribe button for more real stories about choosing yourself, about finding your strength, about learning that you deserve someone who chooses you the first time, every time, without hesitation. Drop a blue heart in the comments if you've ever had to be your own hero. Your story matters. Your worth matters. And I promise you, on the other side of that closed door is a version of yourself you're going to absolutely love. I'll see you in the next one. Until then, remember, you are enough. You always were.